everyone, and welcome to the American Sculpture Podcast. Monday night, we are back in action. First time in a long time. All three of us are back at the same time. I am your host, Timucin, over here in ridiculously snowy Chicago. Out of shape as I am, I shoveled, and I was telling Matush this morning, as always, this is why they sell the backsaver shovels, and I don't have one of those. So nothing saved my back. So I definitely, and she's like, oh, it might just be sore. And I'm like, no, I think I pulled or yanked or something. But again, it's snowing though, so somebody's gonna have to go out. So I was like, it's your turn this time. So Angie might be trotting out there with the shovel. But Gally's here. What's happening?
How in the hell have you lived in this country as long as you have in a land like Chicago and not own a snowblower?
No, I was talking about this morning. I actually have a snowblower.
What in the Christ is wrong with you?
I have not used it in almost a decade because after a while, as I gain weight, I was like, this is my exercise. So even yesterday, actually, funny you mentioned that because there was a post on our little subdivision over here has its own Facebook group or whatever, and they were like, hey, Johnny and Timmy, whatever the hell their names are, the two kids are trying to make some extra cash and to shovel if you guys need help, blah blah blah. And Angie's like, well, we might actually need that because it snowed a lot. And I was like, no, that's fine, that's my exercise. Well, yada yada yada, my back is fucked up.
Just so we're clear,
I was gonna say it's a good thing people don't die doing that at your age.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Timmy, Johnny, Billy, Bob, or, Mary Sue from the neighborhood want to shovel your walkway, let them do it, Tim, because I've seen you, and you don't look to me like a guy who should be shoveling the yard or the driveway or a walkway, maybe even the stairs, if you don't even have and you are right, those shovels that were made to not break your back, the ones I used my whole childhood. I always make this joke. My dad decided to get both a snowblower and a dishwasher the year after I moved out of the house. I'm not even fucking kidding. He bought both of them in 1 year.
You gotta replace this dude.
me and both my sisters were gone, and he was like, I got an idea, Ellen. We should spend this money this way.
Well, honestly, even worse, me being the good Samaritan and the nice guy that I am, we have an older gentleman, yes, even older than me, next door, an older couple. I even kind of did his pathway as well. So now I'm going to knock on his door and I'm going to be like, hey, you owe me a snow shoveling job. What goes around comes around and stuff. But
Timucin's going to ask the neighbor for a snow job, Paul. It'll all go so well.
The man is too old. He wouldn't even know what I'm talking about at this point. But Bickler is in the house. What's happening?
Yeah, good to be back with you guys. Sounds like you guys had a great show last week, and I don't know if that means I should be here or not. So happy to be here, though.
Ryan says it's one of the leading causing of death in men. Snow jobs, or
I didn't just make it up that it's not smart to do.
Really?
Fucking watch out for the snow job. I'll tell you what, we have never once gotten the fucking name of a pod in the first 4 minutes before, but we just goddamn did tonight.
Well, that's kind of scary. No wonder Angie was constantly like, you gotta go shovel, that it all makes sense now. Yes. But yeah, great weekend overall, back in action. I was going to BJ is in the house, by the way. I hope you're doing well, buddy. He did send me a trivia, but literally both of us could barely put it together, and we both agreed there's no way I'm gonna be able to ask this question to Bickler.
Appreciate it.
It will take the entire podcast by the time Bickler understands the whole the specifics.
It's my life's work paying off right here.
You know what? Actually, hold on. Let me attempt it over here a little bit. We were talking about the last time Everton was above us in the standings. Aside from 2 weeks in or at the end of the first week and stuff like that. Because obviously Kazi was having a heart attack when they were above us for a brief period over there. Do you guys remember the last time they were ahead of us in the standings?
I'd answer no. I don't.
Good job. Good answer. Bickler?
Do I get it? Did I get the question right?
Bickler's going to get it right.
No, I'm not going to get it right. I'll say
08, 09. And it's like,
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go. I was in that area. It's got to be like one of the Roy years. It would be my guess.
2014, 2015 season.
So the
so
year.
it's just, it was a period that season. They were ahead of us for a short
Yes,
period.
and that's
of time.
why there's like too many specifics over here. But match
Wasn't
week
14,
16.
15 the year we finished second?
After that was 13, 14.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's the year Rodgers gets fired and the year that
Okay.
No, not the year Rodgers gets fired. It's Rodgers' full year where we go to the Champions League and he jettisons Gerrard out of the lineup, and that gets him fired the next fall, 15, 16, and that's when we hire Klopp.
Yeah, they were ahead of us on like match day, basically 16, match week 16, and then only lasted 1 week. That's like the furthest they have been ahead of us over there. So see, this is what I mean. There was like too many specifics. We were talking about it. We're like, they're never going to get this. So we kind of skipped trivia. But let's get to the weekend over there. Finally, a win, Bickler. So despite the overall, like the review of the game and comments and stuff like that, it's probably something to be happy about. What are your initial reactions to it? Because obviously, if you wanted to kind of poo-poo, if you were Slot out, you kind of make it up all about West Ham. If you're Slot in, you kind of make it a bit more about, finally him making the adjustments and all that kind of stuff. But where are you at with it?
I guess relieved in general. I think my impression coming away from that game is initially relief. My second reaction is still a lot of work to do, because I just feel like we did some things well, and I think it was an improved performance, but I also think it's against a really bad West Ham team right now. And so like in a lot of ways, I think that's what we need. There's just so much to clean up still, in my opinion. I don't necessarily love the way that we were playing up 1-0. Like we were trying to conserve that and run it down. I didn't think that we were nearly proactive enough and aggressive enough at 1-0 to really, like, it didn't look like a side that was trying to really go after a game and close it out. It looked like a game that, like, we were trying not to lose. And that's exactly how you lose matches. I think the two big things that happened that I was excited about was we finally got to see a Joe Gomez start next to Konate, which I've been wanting to see. And then the other thing is we saw this side have an opportunity to play the ball and through Wirtz as a focal point without Mo Salah being on the pitch. And I think that was a big one for me, because this side has essentially spent 8 years in some form playing through Mo. So I don't think it's a coincidence that him not being out there is the moment where we see a Florian Wirtz who looks like he puts his own stamp on a match for 90 minutes.
Yeah, it almost like reminded me. I mean, I've been saying this for like quite some time. When like Coutinho was here, like we constantly looked at Coutinho. We're like, "Where's Coutinho? There he is. Here's the ball. Okay, do something. Like, what are you gonna do? Let's make something happen." Kind of a deal. And I think Mo became that guy. So I think when he's not there, no fault of Mo, but we look for different alternatives and different like ways to open up defenses. I do want to get to Mo and the rotation and stuff, but I want to ask you, Galdi, like, what's your thoughts? I mean, I agree with Bickler in terms of the response to, like, after the 1-0, but it just felt like a team lacking confidence, just wanting to get the win. Every team kind of leans back psychologically after the 80th minute or so. We started like 65, 70 almost, and I kind of put that a lot. You see the relief after the second goal on all the faces, not only on Gakpo. And to me, that kind of it caused us to lean back psychologically, not from Slot or anything like that. It was more in the heads that we kind of were like, let's freaking defend this. We're up for once.
Yeah, I mean, I think they came into the match with a mindset that we have to defend. Like, we're defending at 0-0 as if we're behind a goal, because if we go behind a goal, we're going to lose. Like, that is, I think that's in their mind. And I think when you get to 30 minutes and it's 0-0, and I'm in Discord, like, we kept a clean sheet for 30 minutes, guys. Like, I felt like the match was being played in 15-minute increments, but I thought you could see it with the players on the pitch, and almost like they were sent out with instructions. Like, we're going to do this. If we have opportunities, take them. But if we don't have to push it. They didn't press extra hard. They didn't play a high line. At times they dropped back even. I was like, what's going on? Like, but it looked to me like a very reserved team. It looked to me like a team that wanted to control possession. And let's be real. before we go into talking about Liverpool too much, we probably should use a minute or two of this podcast to apologize to all the West Ham supporters across the world, because that is an embarrassment if you have to watch that every week, because that was abject. I know they won a couple games. They didn't. I don't want to take anything away from us, but I think if we're going to be tempered and real about this and not get caught up in a Frankfurt moment or a one good day against Real Madrid moment, you have to be real that we played a team yesterday that I think half of the championship would have beat on their home ground. And that's not even like a understatement. They were abysmal. So I love what we did. What I really liked was the fact that the whole side seemed to play it together. But you made the comment about, or I think Paul made the comment, sorry, about Gomez. And I just want to say it was great to see him out there. It was even better to see that Konate looked more like a formidable, competent center back playing with a competent defending right back next to him. And I think that has been underlying of all the hate we've thrown at him, and he's deserved a lot of it.
Yeah.
He played really, really well yesterday. At a couple moments where he was a little shaky on the ball, but other than that, he was passing with confidence. They were passing him the ball. A couple times he made blocks, and Virgil was literally cheering him on like it was your boy Nalo playing next to him, and he needed him to have enough fucking excitement over making it 6 minutes without a red card. Like, he was cheering him on like it was a kid. And it was kind of refreshing to see, because it shows that these guys really care about each other. And I thought the defense as a whole was outstanding. And we haven't talked about the only defender on the pitch that only gets shit, which is Kirkez, but he was really good again.
Yeah.
And he looked good going forward, and he looked good playing the ball into Gakpo, and he looked good linking up with McAllister. So it's amazing when you have a midfielder who is present on the left-hand side. It's easier to get the ball out as a left back when you don't know where to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was fine. I mean, overall, I don't think the performance. I mean, with West Ham, they did come in. That's what I was just pulling up over here. But before us, they were kind of on a run. They beat Newcastle at home. They beat Burnley at home. They tied Bournemouth away. So they were kind of on like a, it looked like things were improving. But then, and that's the thing, sometimes when we make him in some ways look bad, Bickler, because I thought by crowding the midfield and having more runners, it just felt like we made life more difficult on them. I know some of their players, like, for example, Bowen is not the Bowen that we're used to and probably in most cases scared of in terms of like causing trouble and stuff. But overall, I thought we did a really good job. I think sometimes we kind of overlook us when the other team is bad, but some of that bad is due to us.
Yeah, well, I think there's two big things here. One, this is the first time I've really seen that sort of low block 3-3-2-3 formation that Slot did a lot at Feyenoord. Like, that's the first time I've clearly seen it in a match. Secondly, it's the first time in how many matches, I don't know, that we haven't seen the back line just do something incredibly dumb. Like, Konate just lumping it out and saying we're going to defend a throw in. I'll take that all day. Yes. I'll take, you know what I mean? Just the safe, simple, easy solve in a situation and then defend it. Right. And that's like, I think that was, either positioning mistakes or just crazy turnovers and stuff. Like, we limited those things, and that makes everything else behind it easier.
Jimbo says Salah can come on as a second half impact player required for now, but I expect when we see the Wednesday lineup that Mo is going to be in that starting 11 along with Ekitike is my guess. Because Gally, my theory right now is this kind of, I think the run-off games and the match traffic kind of helps Slot not be able to say, hey, I got a lot of attackers, we got to rotate, we got so many games in so many days and stuff. Whereas, probably by form and by the amount of running and defending they do, Mo should not be out there. But my theory more is if Mo is going to be out there, you got to have him out there with the Ekitike. Because I think we've seen what happens when you have Mo and Isak and Gakpo up top in terms of the defending and running and stuff. I feel like if you looked better, it was because there was more running on the pitch. There were more runners, more defenders, more people putting pressure on the pitch. So what do you say about my theory, first of all? And what do you say about like what we'll see with like Mo and stuff moving further?
So first off, I think that to be fair, and I've been very critical, so I'll be extra fair. Gakpo did the most running I've probably seen him do
Yes.
in a match.
Yeah.
He worked really hard on both ends, and it shockingly made Kirkez even better going forward. Because
Imagine that, yes.
the winger actually came back and helped him, and gave him space. And they were really good together. Like they were really, really good for a large period of that match. So I want to give Gakpo all his plaudits because I slated him last week for pulling out of the challenges and playing like he's 4.5 inches shorter than me, even though he's 6'4". I do think we'll see Salah on the right-hand side because I think you have to, because I think Szoboszlai is going to have to play right back because you played Gomez 95 minutes. And maybe we'll get to why that was because it was only 1-0. If it was 2 or 3-0, he would have got him off on 60 and maybe been able to give him another run out on Wednesday. I think we'll get Szoboszlai at right back, maybe Jones, but most likely Szoboszlai at right back. I don't love it, but I think you have to do it. And then you start Mo on the right. The where I do disagree with you is I think the manager has made it very clear. At this point, Alexander Isak is the number 9 and the focal point of this offense with Florian Wirtz. And I know Mo's going to have to learn how to play with that, but it's only 2 more games to AFCON, and Mo is almost starting this match out of necessity based on the turnaround from the last match. Because I think if this match was a week from now, I don't think the manager would change the side one bit. I think it'd be the exact same 11 players, just like we saw after the Villa match 4 days later against Madrid.
Yeah.
And he went with the same guys because he had to go with like he is coaching like a manager who is thinking like my job is on the line. He talked about how much the crowd cheering his name meant to him and the support he's getting, knowing he's under pressure. Like I think he does believe he can't have a bad run of results. And I think coming off that goal, it would be weird not to start Isak. And I think pulling him on 60 minutes lets you know he plans to start him on Wednesday, in my opinion.
See, I
Maybe
almost look at it
Ekitike's
as, like,
there, but
he will flip-flop the 60-30, whereas, Isak will come in at 60, because I don't know if Isak has 2 games back-to-back. I know he played, he came out like 65, 67 or something like that, I think, on Sunday. So I just don't know if he'll be able to, trot him out there again. But where do you see that whole turnabout? Because that is a good question. Obviously, we're not going to know the answer, but I don't know if he would bench Mo back-to-back with 0 minutes.
So I'm with Gally actually on the first thing he said, which is if you play Salah, you have to play a TK because we know
that was Timucin.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense then. I think Mo's starting. I think it's going to be Ekitike up top. I also think that Florian Wirtz is not starting this match for Sunderland.
That won't surprise me.
I think Szoboszlai will be there, and I think you're getting Curtis Jones at right back.
That's fair. Is it like just load management kind of a deal? Like he does the 60-30, like he comes in the last 30 if we need to. I'm probably
overanalyzing and overreading into the post-match presser when he was talking about rotation. I just think that he sees 4 games in 10 days and knows that this side needs to rotate. And I think if you're talking about a fact that I'm going to say that Mo Salah starting is probably the biggest lock of all of them. And I think if you do that, I think he tipped his hand bringing Ekitike in towards the end to get him like a 20-30 minute run there. I think Ekitike is going to start this match. And I'm with you. I think Isak comes in sort of off the bench, or maybe he thinks like this is his chance to get Isak into form. So, I mean, there's arguments to be made either way. I think that's going to be the most interesting thing to see. Who's your striker, right? What would be, I think would be amazing to see, honestly, to see Mo Salah, Ekitike, and Isak in the front line together. With Ekitike playing off on the left. I don't think it will happen. I think it'd be great to see, but yeah. And I think that back line is going to be interesting for me. I would start, what makes sense is I'd say Robbo, Van Dijk, Konate, and Gomez, but I don't think it's going to be that. I think we're going to see Kirkez because when realistically you want to rotate Robbo in at some point, but I think Sunderland's got so much pace up front. I think it's the one thing they have. And I think, you guard that with Kirkez. And I just, like I said, I think Jones is going to end up getting that start at right back because I think Wirtz is not going to start and you're going to need Szoboszlai up there.
Yeah, I just feel like, I mean, that's where I agree with Gally. It's like you're really pushing your luck to trot Gomez out there again, and
Yeah,
like back
you
to
can't
back
do it.
is the only
Yeah.
problem. And that's why you do have to make any adjustments. I guess my thing more is I agree with you, Gally, in terms of like you saw Gakpo, somebody pulled his ear and said, "You're gonna have to run, dude. Like, we can't have this, you waiting up top. You're gonna have to help Kirkus out." But my thing is, if you have Mo playing, especially if you don't have Gomez behind him as a right back as well, it almost feels like you can't afford to have Isak. Do you think Isak will eventually be as much pressing and defending as much as Ekitike? Is it just a matter of him getting the legs underneath him, or we're gonna have to kind of like adjust our way? Obviously, down the road, you're not gonna have Mo, so you're not gonna have two guys on the pitch, not necessarily defending.
Yeah, I don't think Isak was bought to defend at all. I think what happens here is, and we've talked about this before, right? I think we were absolutely spoiled with all the years of Bobby Firmino. And like we saw something we've never seen before, which is like an effortlessly, completely selfless number 9 that makes everyone around him better. And he made 2 really good players world class. In my opinion, that's what happened. Sadio Mane and Mo Salah are great, great players. And Bobby Firmino's willingness to play the way he did for a decade allowed them to become world class players and go on to be legends, right? Of the club, of win big things. And he did too. We saw a little of that. And then even if you look at it, right, even Darwin, as all of his faults, we wanted him to be the Isak type number 9 striker. And he wanted to drop back and try to play in, like get into play and play along like he was Bobby Firmino. Jota was a different type of striker. He wasn't a striker. He was a center forward more than he was a striker, right? Like an actual forward, play all over, drop deep, create space. Last year, Diaz did the same thing. Isak is ultimately the truest thing we've had to a point forward number 9. And we've all laughed about Haaland, right? And been like, oh, has 14 touches over 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Scores a brace and they win 2-1. That's what we signed. And you saw it, in my opinion, on Sunday morning. Like that is not an easy finish. Paul, you mentioned it in the Discord chat. Like that ball pops up to him. He takes it first time, hits it on a postage stamp off the inside part of the post. The only part he could. He scuffs it off the ground to make sure it stays low. Like everything about it is the class that is the player. And we haven't seen 1 ounce of that level of talent yet in all of his 10 performances, all of his 10 appearances. In my opinion, you haven't seen any of that. But that moment showed me he has the confidence. Like he's never, you ever watch him, Paul, you're a striker, you know this. He is never outside the 2 goalposts, ever. He is always within those 2 goalposts. So if the ball gets to his hip, he knows where to put it. He doesn't have to look at the goal. I'm sorry. I think Ekitike started brilliantly. I think there is a magical footballer in there, and he's going to go on. He might go on to higher levels. You bought the 2nd or 3rd best finisher in the world, and you bought him for a record price. He's going to play all the big minutes. If we're in the Champions League final tomorrow, Alexander Isak starts at center forward for Liverpool this year, 2 years from now, and 5 years from now.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
3 years from now and 5 years from now is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But I think right now, if you're going to do that, I guess that's my thing, Bickler.
Ekitike has 1 goal in 10 games. 1 goal in 10 games. That's not what I'm
saying, though. But we've been losing, Gally. Doesn't matter who's scoring goals, who's not scoring. Nobody's scoring goals. My thing is you're leaking goals. And when it's leaking goals, I know everybody looks at freaking Konate. But when there's no defending up top, there's no pressure on the ball. This is the Premier League. If any player can get their head up and look, I don't care if you have like Superman Van Dyke form and you have 4 of them back there, somebody's going to run through that line. So I do think then, and that's my thing, Bickler, is then you have to play a different way, or you have to ask different things from Mo and say, hey, you're going to play once a week, but I need you to do this. What we had Gakpo do compared to what he normally does, because you can't have 2 guys up top that are not putting Any pressure
Yeah, and
on
I mean, let's be honest though. In the 8 matches prior to those 10, Ekitike had 6 goals and assists. You know what I mean? And he was playing more through the middle. And I think what he has that Isak doesn't is I think he's a better passer, and I think he has the ability to beat you on pure pace alone. So I mean, I think there are different skill sets. I still think he's a tremendous player. I think we'd be being a huge disservice to this team if he's not a regular part of the starting 11 in some form or function. I do agree.
But you
with
know
you.
the answer to that. You're dropping the legend.
I think that's going to happen eventually anyway.
I'm just saying that's the answer to this question, to where Timucin was going. What does this mean long term for Mo?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it's gonna, or you're gonna have to have Mo play a different way. I guess Bickler is like my thing. He can't be the.
I think the writing's on the wall. I think the writing is on the wall for him, and I think it's everything that we said about Sadio Mane. What do you do with a guy where 85% of his game is just predicated on pace and the legs go, right? I mean, I think that's the main thing, and I think the big difference in this match to me was that right side when you saw the work Soboslai was doing on the right with Gomez, right? I mean, it unlocks everything. And then you've got Wirtz, who just essentially works as an orchestrator or a conductor in the midfield. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. I think that I think I keep coming back to the fact that, like, with a lot of these players having spent almost 8 years playing a certain way with Mo Salah on the pitch, when you take that option off of the table, it forces them to play a different way. And I think that was the big difference.
I guess the problem then is, I was talking to like Matisha about this morning too. I mean, we talked about Ekitike, we talked about Isak. They're two very different center forwards when they play up there, because Ekitike wants to drop back, wants the ball and stuff. Whereas, like you're saying, Isak is more content being in the box, being able to finish. Well, the issue is, though, then you have to adjust the way you play so that you can feed your 9, like, City has done with, for example, with Haaland and stuff. Whereas with the Ekitike, you got to play it differently. Can you keep switching back and forth, or we got to kind of get as more of a set starting 11?
I think Isak is the striker that Slot wants to play with. He wants to play with a traditional 9 who sits in between the goalposts. So I do think, like, and this is where I keep coming back to, where in an ideal world, it would be fun to have Ekitike play off of Isak, right?
Correct.
As a second striker. I mean, that's the best of both worlds. You still got to rotate, and you have so many matches. So, right. So I don't know what the play is there. I think when you have Ekitike up top, the main problem that you have with that is he starts playing into spaces that you want Wirtz to occupy.
Wirtz in. And that's the whole problem. He drops deep into areas. We never worried about Bobby dropping deep because we didn't have a number 10. We didn't have a number 10. We had Genie and fucking Hendo passing it sideways.
We're playing with
pissing everyone off.
We're playing with 3 6s.
Yeah.
I just that's my issue. My issue with where Ekitike is as the center forward is, I feel like at the beginning of the year, and I don't want to make this sound like it's a blame on Ekitike or I'm slating him, because I think he's a great young player and I think he's going to be a star. Like, might go on to be the biggest star on this whole team, might be as good as Wirtz, as good as Isak, whatever might get to top level, but he drops into all the spaces you want your number 10 in. And I think we saw that at the beginning of the year. I saw a stat this morning and I thought it was comical. In the first half of the West Ham match, Wirtz completed 4 passes to Isak. That was the same amount of total passes he had completed to the number 9 in the final third this entire season. Like, he was actually creating a partnership with the player they bought to create the partnership. And I'm sorry to say this out loud, and hopefully no one will be clipping up shorts, because then I won't get slated all over freaking Facebook and YouTube and X and all the places. But that was there because there was so much space without Mo Salah being the focal point and taking up areas that other players need to be in. And they ran all match long. They created the yards. Wirtz was everywhere. Couple of the touches he had in the first half, he'd be like shut down by 2 players and he'd like turn his hips and flick the ball forward. And it'd be like this, like, I heard someone say today, He's never going to put the laces through the ball his entire Liverpool career, and I don't care, because watching him touch a football is like watching someone like just caress a cushion. It's unbelievable, and he sees things. And now there's the players on the pitch to me in this match, and maybe it was West Ham too. They started to see the places he was planning to play the balls, and they were getting there on his runs. It was a really, really impressive performance, in my opinion, by Wirtz. I thought Wirtz, Gomez, Gakpo really, really did great. And you can't say enough about Dominic Szoboszlai at this point. He's just a machine.
And I think that was more than like Mo, because really Mo kind of like hugs the touchline for the most part, but it was the lack of running you get on the right-hand side and the creativity and stuff. The movements, you don't get the movements. I think Hassan was asking about, I think that's more, I can't wait to see. I was really hoping he would be fit when Mo is gone. To have actually Frimpong on that right-hand side on the right wing, the familiarity they have, because I do agree it is a little bit. We had the same thing when Thiago first came over too. Like, he would do some things people were not ready for. It's almost like, oh shit, I didn't think you could. No, I didn't think you could do that. I didn't think you even saw that. I didn't even see that kind of thing. I mean, Dara was mentioning, I think that's kind of like going to come slowly with time in terms of Isak being able to, get ready to put himself in a position to kind of like anticipate those passes, knowing, hey, if I get open, this guy is going to find me. Like, if I find the space to get open, he's going to find me, kind of a deal. But that's the kind of like the long-term issue. I think it goes back to our wet dream of the 4-4-2 Bickler, to have Ekitike and Isak up top together. I guess my frustration comes with, if you wanted Isak, right? You were saying that's what Slot was after. Then why constantly try to attack through the middle when you have a guy who's not as much of the interplay, who's waiting for you to kick it out wide so that the ball can come into the box? I guess, whereas Ekitike is more about the give and goes right in front of the box and stuff like that.
I think that Isak is predatory in the way that he scores goals. I don't think he's particularly good in the air. Like, I don't think he scores a lot from things coming in wide. I think that he thinks that there's opportunities to create space through the middle in which you can thread balls into Isak. And that's where he's really, really good. And I think that's what they're trying to do. So I think the goals will be there. What I like about Isak is I think he's actually pretty mentally tough. I don't think he gets, I think a lot of strikers, when they, haven't been playing a lot, or they're coming in a position where they haven't played regular football, I think there is like almost like I don't want to say confidence, but like, like they have to get mentally back to a place where they're envisioning all these goals happening and getting in the right spaces mentally. I don't think he has, I think he just has that built in. I don't think he needs that. And so I think there's this really quiet confidence with him that I like. I think the big thing for him is he's just got to bet into the side. I think his personality, he's a quiet kid, and I think it just takes a minute for him to kind of bet in. I actually think once he starts getting bonds and relationships formed, through training and stuff, I think that we're going to see his game hit another level through that. And I think tactically this thing will start to come together. But I mean, we're all at this point where we knew that this side was in transition. And I think we knew that before we went on a losing run. I think what's very interesting is transitioning into a team that is built, where everything is built around Florian Wirtz and the goals come through Isak. And that is so different from what we're used to. I think this club needed this game more because it was won with the players it had on the pitch versus just getting the 3 points the way we did. Like, I think it's almost how we did it and with who we did it. That's more important.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Diluted Steve, living up to his name, says we're not losing another Prem game and we're going to be... I mean, that's the thing. There's a happy medium, I think, between, nothing is impossible. I get what Hassan is saying, but where are you at it with Gally in terms of... I agree with Bickler. I mean, obviously it's a big win, the 3 points, who is involved, Isak getting a goal. There's like so many aspects to it, clean sheets. There's a bunch of things to be happy about. How much of a step will it be? Like, how do you see it translating to Wednesday, for example?
What's the result Wednesday is my question to you, and I'll tell you how big a step it was. If you tell me we get 3 points, even if it's ugly and it's a bad performance and it's a own goal off the face of the goalkeeper with 5 seconds left in the match, fine. We're stepping forward because we're completing wins against teams we should beat. If all it is a blip, if it's Frankfurt, then it's nothing.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, though. Which do you think it will be?
I think it's a step in the right direction, because I think the number one thing is it took the pitchforks and the social media warriors and the media people in England trying to get the manager fired. Like, they were trying to get the manager fired. That's what they wanted. Let's not kid ourselves. Most media people in England were rooting for a West Ham 2-1 win after Liverpool went up 1-0, so they could write the Slot out articles and the sack the manager tonight. And let's be real, it would have happened in our Discord and it would have happened in all of our Facebook groups and the WhatsApp chats. That's what it did. It stayed the execution, as they say, right? It just separated a moment to give clarity and people to give basically take a breath and then take a pause. But you have to now back it up with a performance against Sunderland and a performance against Leeds. I don't know how many points they'll get in the 2 matches, but I'll tell you this. They'd be really good to get 6. Because if they get 6, they'll put themselves right back firmly in the top 4 race, and they will be a handful of points. And I'll tell you this right now. I haven't looked at the table in about 10 days because I've been really irritated and frustrated. I had an idea where we were. But when I looked today and realized that we were 4 points behind City and 9 points behind Arsenal, playing the way we are playing, that made me actually be like, shit, now I know why the really super positive people out there are like, why the deluded Steves are so deluded thinking we're going to win this fucking league. No, because it's actually possible. You string 2-3 wins together between now and Christmas. Arsenal drops some points. We go to the Emirates and get a win. We're 3 points out on January 8th. That's an insane
I feel like
idea.
if you go into January, only 6 points behind, 5 points behind and stuff, you're definitely in the conversation then. It's kind of, I am not totally sold on the schedule. This helps too. Like, the schedule you have right now enables you to get those 3 points you're talking about, Gally, in terms of being able to string them together. I guess my biggest concern going into Wednesday is, like you were saying, Bickler, it's not only the 3 points, it's who played and how we got it. Well, most likely we just covered it. On Wednesday, it's not going to be the same people. Are they going to be able to play the same way in terms of intensity and stuff like that?
Well, here's my hope. I think that what you can do is, what I'd like to see is this manager get almost like a B team together. Because I think if we put out the lineup that I think we might put out, what that lineup does allow you to do is at the 30-minute mark with 30-minute or the 60-minute mark with 30 minutes left, or with 15 minutes left, or with 20 minutes left, depending on the game situation, it would allow you to bring Isak, Wirtz, Gomez, Gravenberch off the bench. And that's your core. That's your core of what you want to do. And if you can put together a match where you're in it, and you've got some sort of a semblance of a lead and a foothold on a game, and you can bring that, that injection in the side late second half, I think it's all going to come down to, can this side with a different back line, with some sort of rotation, continue to be solid enough with Mo Salah on the pitch? Because I think the problem that nobody wants to talk about, I think Mo Salah it still is quality in front of goal. No doubt. But I think in a lot of ways you're playing with 10 when he's on the pitch, because I don't think he can come back and contribute in the midfield like you need him to.
I'm more like most part of it. I do feel, I don't know why, and hopefully I am proven right, but I think a Mo who sat down and watched that, who was not in the starting 11, will come out and it will be a whole different Mo, similar to what we said about Gakpo, Gally, in terms of the approach, the attitude, the work rate and stuff like that, not to mention rested, obviously. But my fear is more about, we're assuming that, Gomez won't be there and stuff. So you're going to have the defensive frailties back. Not only, I feel like we're kind of putting it's way too much on Mo and his, not him being there. But I thought it was a lot about, having an actual rights back playing rights back more importantly, being able to play Szoboszlai in midfield and on the right wing and stuff like that.
It was, but it also had a lot to do with it. It helped Gomez that Szoboszlai was on the right wing, actually tracking back and helping the right back. And I think that's where what Paul was getting at is look, it's going to be real. This was always going to be hard with Mo. And it's why I questioned 2 years ago whether I thought, you remember when he signed his last 3-year contract? I said he'd get sold in the second year to PSG, and I was totally wrong. They played out the third year. I'll go back and say it. They should have taken the $200 million from Saudi when they offered it. It was the right thing then. It would be the right thing now. But it all worked out because we bought the players we needed. Everyone loves Mo. Mo is wonderful. With what Arne Slot looks like he's trying to do, which we've only seen in 3 matches Mo Salah hasn't played in. I'll also admit, or I'll add in, they won all 3 of those matches and they didn't concede in any of them. So I think it's hard for us to look at this and act like it's just a blip, because it literally goes back to last February or March. This isn't 10, 15 games of a transition and losing, his mate in the summer, which he did. And I know it's weighing on him and it's clear and evident. And it probably will for the rest of his playing career. But I would be hard pressed to meet a Liverpool supporter who is honest and true to themselves, that saying on what they've seen over the last 2 months, they still believe that Mo Salah is part of the best 11 they can put out there. Not the best 11 players that can play for them, but the best 11 they can put out there. Yeah. I don't think you can explain to me a world where he fits into that. And I think he needs to go to AFCON, have an awesome tournament with Egypt, and reevaluate himself of how he can make himself a part of that. Because I think the second half of the season, he's literally like a super sub who comes on to try to win games. And we'll probably see some hero moments. We'll probably also see some hero ball played from him because he's doing that.
Yeah.
But I think this manager knows, for me to stay here, like save my job and be here for the 5 years, 8 years I want to be, I need to make the biggest call that Jurgen Klopp started to make right before he left, and then realized maybe I don't want to have to make this fight. I'll just walk.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, that's what's is confusing then. Do we just make these moves too early then, Bickler, or did we underestimate or overestimate, I guess I should say, what Salah can do and convert his game? Because you just signed, it's not like, he's end of his 5-year contract or something like that. You just signed him to an extension. Then you brought these other players in. So clearly, when we had something in mind in terms of bringing Wirtz, going after Isak and stuff like that, Mo was part of that formula. If you were looking 3 years down the road, then did you just sign him because of the pressure from the fans?
Yes.
I think, I don't know, it had pressure to the fans as much as, I think it was seen as a low risk, high reward situation. The fact that you kind of looked at him in a lot of ways that people looked at Tom Brady, where you were just going to ride it until it fell off and you didn't know when it was going to fall off. And you just crossed your fingers that, hey, if you're going to take that gamble, let's do it in a year where we load it up on quality. And that way, if the legs do fall off, we've got options. I just don't think they thought it would happen as fast as it did. And I think that they underestimated how difficult it is to bet in that many players in one squad at the same time.
Do you think then, staying with you, that Mo can adjust his game to be viable and actually play as a starter? Because I agree with Gally, if you were making a team, it's probably, and I don't know because it's recency bias, but it's going to look similar to the weekend right now in terms of, your most efficient starting 11 that's most likely to win a game or most likely to compete. Do you think there's a world where Mo does make adjustments, plays maybe once a week, kind of similar to what we were saying about Robertson and stuff earlier, and is an actual viable option to play in the system as a right winger?
I think in spots, yes. I think long-term, consistently, no. Because I think the position, the way that Slot wants it to play, requires more than he's able to give physically. which is crazy to say about Mo Salah, who's just a chiseled rock.
Yeah.
But I just think that, like, I think the amount of like midfield work that he needs to do in this system, like I think if you were to look at his last performance and you were to stack it next to Soboslai's, the difference is so night and day in terms of like the work rate in the places that Soboslai was taking up and how he was taking them up.
The end of the game, right? The goal, Gakpo's goal. Soboslai beats Areola to a ball on a full sprint in the 93rd minute. Dead ass tired, run more than anyone on the entire pitch, maybe more than 2 or 3 players combined. And he beats the keeper to the ball, has the composure to pull it back, drops it to Gomez, creates the goal. I think we all know in that 93rd minute, Mo has a hard time making that run and beating the keeper to that ball. At this point, with even that, he wouldn't have done as much running as Sobo had at that point. He would have struggled.
Is it unfair, Modo, by the way, Gali,
No.
that it's Soboslai replacing?
Well,
I'm not. It's the guy who runs the most.
Even if he got to the ball, he would have tried to take the keeper around the corner and chipped him.
Oh,
and Soboslai went, I'll drop it back to my right back. Maybe we'll just see this out. And the right back went, no, screw it. Let's go win this 2-0. And to be fair, Gakpo gets a lot of shit for bad touches. What a great chest down to his right foot and the composure to wait until the defender ran past him and then smashes it past the keeper on the turn. It was a beautiful finish. Great little cross by Gomez. It's hard to say these things about Mo, and I know no one wants to hear it. But they gave Mo Salah that contract at the end of the season because they knew they were losing Trent, and they knew they needed to bring back 2 of those 3 players because they needed stability and a title-winning team and a guy who just put up career record numbers. We act like if they knew. You said earlier, like if they had to know when they signed Mo Salah before they ever knew they had a shot of getting Florian Wirtz or Isak was coming, or they were getting Ekitike. They signed Mo Salah to make sure that players like Isak and Ekitike and Florian Wirtz were willing to come to the club.
That's true too, yeah.
But I think they knew we signed these guys, but we have to be ready for the brutal moments. And I think that's where having a guy like Slot is actually great because he's so direct and so straightforward. Like, I don't think Arne Slot will have a problem explaining to Salah after AFCON that we've won 6 out of 7 and drawn the other one. And you're no longer a starter in this side till things change. If that's what it comes to be. I don't think he will. I really don't. I think this is like the right moment for this movement to happen. But Mo's got to play at least 1 or 2 of the matches before he leaves, or it would just be silly because we don't have enough players, to your point, with Frimpong being hurt.
Yeah.
And just lack of depth all over the pitch. So for me, this is all about Mo's perception of who he is right now and how he wants to see out the rest of his time. Because I'm telling you right now, I've seen bigger stars leave in the worst blaze of fires. And I really don't want that to happen. But the look on his face at West Ham the entire time the cameras went to him, and I know no one likes to sit, but he didn't even cheer the second goal. He just sat there stoic and pissed because he never even got up to warm up. It does make me nervous that he doesn't handle this well. I won't lie.
I mean, I don't mind that he doesn't handle it well. I don't want him to handle it well. Most players, especially players who've been stars, don't. That's why it always, does. In most cases, it does not end well in those situations. But I mean, and I guess Bickler, it's unrealistic to expect Mo to be Szoboszlai. Nobody else is Szoboszlai. I guess that was my point in terms of who we're comparing him to in terms of performance when we look at the West Ham game, because nobody else on the pitch is going to run as much as that guy. So when you replace Mo with the guy who runs the most, obviously it's going to stick out. But do you think there's a world where Mo does Gakpo amount of running? We saw this game, not the regular Gakpo amount of running, because I think anybody can do that. But what we saw from Gakpo this game in terms of giving that work rate, do you see a world where Mo can do that? Because I do think I don't know. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to Mo, but that's probably the biggest thing I'm going to watch this Wednesday is how he responds in terms of his play and what he does off the ball more than on the ball.
Feels like a real opportunity to say there's no job like Mo's job, but so variations on a theme there. But I think the thing that I think Mo is going to struggle with the most to me is like, can he get away with like a Gakpo-esque performance like the last one? Sure. I think the thing with Mo too, though, is Mo capable of changing his game so that he's not taking up areas that Florian Wirtz is going to be in, right? Very similar to Kaneki Tike can like not drop back and play as a traditional 9. Like those are some big adjustments.
Did you ever think that was an issue? Because I never thought that with Wirtz because Mo goes out so wide out. Did you think that was an issue?
I thought he was drifting centrally a lot, especially when we get into the opposition box area, which just adds a number. It creates like, I think he just jams that up. I do think that like I think that he can and does pull wide some, but I think he likes to kind of go central in a similar way. Gakpo likes to turn that in all the time, but I think the difference is Gakpo generally will take up spaces when he doesn't have the ball that are wide, where I think that Mo, he'll wait for the ball out wide, but in possession in the final third, he goes into the middle.
Yeah, that's
which is I think the big thing. So he can, and there's nothing saying that he can't adjust his style of play and figure it out, right? I mean, we had this conversation last year too, and he seemed like he was starting to figure it out a little bit, right? When he was like his pace was dropping a little bit. I just think we're having this argument of can he? And the real question is for this, I think it's Willie, but will he? But like, I think the bigger thing is when you look at this club is like, should we be asking that? Should we be asking him to do that? Like, or should we just be playing the younger players that are the future of the side and that do that naturally? Right.
When you're paying that much money, it's okay to ask though, isn't it?
I think we got to get over that
quality.
I think you got to get over what you paid him and worry about where you finish on the table.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Arsenal did okay a couple years paying guys 300,000 pounds a week to sit on the bench and playing Saka on the right-hand wing because he was better. And United has paid umpteen ridiculous people $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a week, right? They had Alexis Sanchez making the most money of any player ever in the Premier League. I think he scored 2 goals at the club, and they realized this is a mistake. We can't do this. I'm not saying he's a mistake. What I'm saying is they gave him that money as an investment, but let's be real. They always know there's a bag of cash coming from Saudi. And at the end of this summer, we'll see. I don't want to talk transfers. That'll just piss you off, Tim. We just won a match. But like I hate saying it. They paid Virgil the money for 2 years because they expected Virgil van Dijk to start every league match for those 2 years. I think they paid Mo Salah the money for 2 years, knowing they could sell him in 1 year for a 3 times profit to what they paid for him 9 years and 7 trophies ago. And on top of it, we have the guy who scored the most goals last year at our club, but we're also going to have all these other star players want to come play with him. And if it works out great and we phase him out, it feels to me like it was Arne Slot's plan from day one to phase out Mo Salah and figure out a way to do it. And he did it slowly and tactically. He just didn't know the guy was going to literally show up and be like, young Brazilian Ronaldo at 32 years old for the first half of the season. He was the best player in the world until January of last year. He was.
And I don't think it's, I'm not saying we should play him because of the money, but I think we should see what he does. And if he does give you, if you're playing freaking Gakpo, then, like at that rate and, what he does, because his finishing is obviously a lot better and his creativity in terms of 100%. Getting others.
We don't have the depth to lock him out. We don't. No.
Well, that's another thing.
He's got
another thing, especially. Yeah. But even if they're, let's not talk transfers. But if you do something in January, Frimpong comes back and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, goes back to what Gally's saying. Yeah, instead of losing him for nothing, so it still won't be a bad move. And like I say, I'm not saying we should play him because he gets paid, but I think not only that, I feel like it's a guy who would want to get involved. I don't know. Like I say, maybe I'm overestimating. I'm being optimistic, but I do expect a kind of like a young Mo come Wednesday over here. Diluted Steve, no
It's
man.
diluted.
Yeah, you are deluded when you say Durant. He did score a great goal today, but that dude is.
I wish we
Yeah,
could have
I
Jurgen.
would not
I wish we could have
expect that of
Jurgen
you guys.
answer this.
What?
I wish we could like give Jurgen a truth serum and ask him this. Like that is a player that does not pass the character profile of Liverpool football.
No, I don't think so. No, I mean that's why I'm kind of like almost glad he's on loan at Fenerbahce. By the way, it's not a. He does not feel like a team guy. He feels like a very much like what Galatasaray has in Osimhen, for example. It's kind of like more for their stats and contracts and stuff like that, rather than the team. Even though he did score a great goal today, that's a different story. Against Galatasaray, mind you, so a huge goal. Starting lineups. Bickler, you kind of gave the back 4. Is that what you want? What you expect?
It's not what I want. I expect Kirkes, Van Dijk, Konate, Jones on the back line, and I'll let Dara go ahead and have a stroke about that because we know how much he loves Curtis. But Curtis was quietly very professional last time he played in that as a right back. He had a really good game.
And then you're going midfield, the usual
midfield. I have Soboslai, Grav, Maka, and then up top I have Gakpo, Ekitike, and Mo.
Okay, Gally, where do you differ?
Differ. I think Robertson will start. I know it's been I think 3 straight starts or 2 straight starts for Kirkes. I think Robertson will get Sunderland and Kirkes will get Leeds. Little more robust on the road, that kind of thing. I think Robertson gets this match at home. I don't disagree. I think it might be Soboslai at right back. And maybe Jones in the midfield. I know you don't like it. But I also think it's hard for him not to start Wirtz if the medical science. I think sports science team comes in and makes huge calls here because they're making big decisions on Wirtz. And they're making big decisions on Gomez, and they're making a big decision on Isak, right? On like how fit are they and what can they give you? Because I think the manager said that they told him to take Wirtz off sooner, but he was like, sometimes matches just make you keep going. And I have a gut feeling they told him to do the same thing about Gomez. And until the match got to 2-0, he was like, you can go this to yourself. Joe Gomez will stay out there because we're not conceding. So I'd love to see some relatively normal right back like Ramsey, because I think you saw when you have a real right back, it makes your defense better and your midfield better. I'd take Ramsey, but I genuinely think we will get either Soboslai or Jones, and I think the other one will start in midfield because I do feel like this might be a match to give Maka a little bit of a rest so he's ready for Leeds on the road. Like, I don't think you can keep playing every one of these guys every matches, and we don't have a lot. So I think you got to rotate. Up top, I'm going to say it's Gakpo, Isak, and Mo, purely because I think you build off that goal. You give him a run out, and I think Ekitike gets to come in. And who knows, maybe then you bench Mo for the trip to Leeds, and you play your 2 strikers up against Leeds, because I think they're going to play a back 5. Sunderland will. And I think that helps you to have a little bit more with like the Mo out there. I think that helps. It's part of the reason I think he might want to play Wirtz, but I don't know if he will. So it's Isak for sure for me through the middle, and it's purely because of the goal. And I think the manager is just kind of like, he's kind of nailing. I think he's nailing himself to that flag. Like that's his guy, in my opinion. It's Isak at this point going forward.
I think we kind of saw that when he started them over Ekitike in the Forest game. And we talked about it last week, Gally. I felt like he should have been Ekitike there, but that I think
agreed.
Like he kind of showed his colors there. I think by starting Isak over. I think this schedule really helps Slot do kind of what he wants and try different things and different duos without breaking any hearts and breaking any morale and stuff, because there's so many games coming. You're like, don't worry, kid, you'll play on Saturday, kind of a thing. So I think he does do Ekitike with 60, but yeah, I mean, Jimbo says Soboslai must be in midfield. That's what I want to see from Slot. Is are we learning from the mistakes? Because I think it's very, very clear that midfield suffers drastically when Soboslai is not in there and his running is not in there. Are we learning from our mistakes, or are we going to still put the guy at right back and hope for the best in midfield, where we know what happens over and over and over again? Those are the changes like I want to see. I'm not one of these guys. I'm like, how come he doesn't put this guy in? How come he doesn't put Chiesa and stuff like that? People were still talking about Chiesa this weekend, which I don't think it made any sense in this match, for example. I don't want change for the sake of change. I want change to learn, to show that we learned from the mistakes. And I think Szoboszlai as right back has been a mistake. I know it paid off a couple of times early in the season, but it's been a more mistake more often than not. On the way out is prediction time. Bickler.
I'm gonna go. I think there's gonna be some goals in this one. I'll go. Give me 3-1. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3-2 though, and we eke out a kind of a messy one. But I'll go 3-1.
The Timucin special. Gally, what do you have?
I'm going 2-1, but it's not pretty. I think it's a very difficult matchup, and it's a side playing in good form. But I think they have enough to get at them, and I think if you look at Sunderland's results outside of the draw at Chelsea, it's mainly been at home that they've attacked, especially the bigger side. So I think we can find a way to squeak out a 2-1 win.
I go with the Slot special. I think we kind of continue this trend over here. We go with the 2-0 and we go. Yes, Deludus Steve says have to stay on brand. You got a reputation to keep, bro. I get it. 7-2 Liverpool. So, yeah, some of us we get to names.
I mean, why are we giving up 2 goals, Steve? What the fuck?
He's just deluded. That's why. But hey, as long as, I mean, going back to what Gally was saying earlier, I don't care how it comes across. I just want to kind of like stack up these wins. That was the whole point of this on paper easier schedule. So hopefully we get another 3 points heading over to the weekend. So come Monday, we're talking about 2 more wins. And we'll be back in the title race just like that. So, but have an awesome week, everybody. Thanks to all those joining us. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Check our podcast as well. A lot of new stuff coming your way on the website as well. So stay tuned for all that. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care.